visualization. This is something I've been doing recently a lot, and it's an absolute game changer. I want to give an example of Michael Phelps here. We all know who he is, right?
Michael, I don't know. He's coming with a run with time. He's coming hard, Phelps.
I agree. This reminds me of a quote from Michael Jordan. Anthony Edwards has been dubbed the next Michael Jordan.
Anthony Edwards!
The beauty of this is that Jokic is now a 3 times MVP in NBA, which is the most valuable player award. And there are very few players who get 3 times MVP in their entire career.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wiser Together with your host Parmeet Kumar and Anas Pasha. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this. Please support us in any way you can. We truly appreciate it. Okay, let's start this week's episode. We're going to be talking about winning mentality. We're going to explain what that means. What is the single most biggest ingredient you need to have a winning mentality? How you acquire or develop that ingredient. It's not something on the outside. It's not something you go buy. It's not a course. It's already within you. We're going to talk about that, uncover that, share some secrets with you, how you can develop that ingredients to have a winning mentality. We'll also discuss some figures, personalities that embody this personality and embody this mentality. And we're going to unwrap those as well and use their examples to understand more about this mentality. And lastly, we'll also discuss some dark sides. What is the cost of it, right? Everything comes at a cost, so it's important to give you guys a full picture. So let's get this started.
Yo.
We'll go to Anas because this episode and the idea for this episode came about because of something that is going on in our environment right now. So take over, Anas.
Absolutely. So there are 2 teams in the NBA right now, Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets. They're going head to head, and it has become an interesting series because you have the league's MVP, Nikola Jokic. He's playing in Denver Nuggets, and then you have Anthony Edwards playing for Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Anthony Edwards has been dubbed the next Michael Jordan, so that's like a big title to carry on. And the series went like this. So usually in these semifinals, basically you have a series. The series is a best of 4. So the series started with Minnesota Timberwolves winning the 2 matches in Denver's home, and then Denver winning the next 3 matches consecutively.
In there.
And then, yeah, I mean, 2 in Minnesota's home and 1 in their home. And then now, yesterday, Minnesota won again. So the series is basically tied 3-3, and it's insane. And it has gone down to the final match, which is going to be Game 7 tomorrow. Game 7 in NBA is like the most hyped up thing, right? And a lot of finals, be it with Michael Jordan, LeBron James, all of these top players that we might know have gone into Game 7. So there's something to look forward to. I'm pretty much excited, but I guess why I mentioned and why I wanted to talk about these 2 teams and these 2 players in particular was, of course, like you mentioned, was self-belief. Um, you can see clearly with the pattern of winning as well how self-belief comes into play. There are days when Jokic had that self-belief, that confidence inside of him. Again, it's just something you can't touch, you can't quantify, right? It's just something we always talk about. So he led his team, in 3 consecutive wins. He is the pivotal player. He's the center for them, and in terms of scoring as well, in terms of assisting, making the players better around him. On the other hand, Anthony Edwards, whenever Minnesota Timberwolves won, he was pivotal in their victory as well. So I want to talk about these players. I did a little bit of research as well. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Also, I want you to talk to me and our viewers here in a way that somebody who is doesn't know about basketball? What is the takeaway for them?
Absolutely.
Somebody who doesn't know, because I personally don't. I know about basketball. I know
Absolutely.
a few players here and there. So what
Oh
is
yeah,
it
for
that
sure,
we
for
can
sure.
take away
So
from their
yeah, so
mentality?
like I said, Anthony Edwards plays for Minnesota Timberwolves, and
Yeah,
Nikola Jokic plays for Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets. Yeah.
Anthony is from the US. Jokic is from the Serbia. Anthony Edwards came in the league as a 19-year-old, very high prospect, and Jokic came from Serbia, not as a very high prospect. Actually, he was the 41st overall draft, which means that he was picked way later than all the other players. And NBA drafts happen every year. In fact, when he was picked, there was a Taco Bell commercial going on, and he was sleeping because he was back in Serbia. So basically, no ducks were given, right?
Hmm.
And the thing is that the beauty of this is that Jokic is now a three times MVP in NBA, which is the most valuable player award. And there are very few players, like I don't remember the statistic, but who get three times MVP in their entire career. So that's a very interesting thing, right? So Anthony Edwards, like I said, he's 22 years old now. He goes by the name of Ant Man. His stats right now is that he's averaging 25.9 in scoring, 5.4 in rebounds, and 5.1 in assists. So that's very good average, right? Um, for Jokic, like I said, he just became the MVP. He's averaging 26.4 in scoring, 12.4 in rebounds, and 9 in assists. So these are very good players, right? So, like I said, the game has gone down to game seven. That's going to be tomorrow. But a little bit about Jokic that I want to talk about is that, like I said, um, while growing up, again, economic conditions not that good. Living in Serbia, living with family, and then at the same time, his physical conditioning was never that good as well. Like he was like this chubby kid, never that athletic,
Hmm.
and actually he never even wanted to play basketball. He's way more interested in horse racing. Same thing with Anthony Edwards. He came from a very disadvantaged economic condition, living with his family, moving through different cities, different high schools, and just trying to make it. So I guess you see with these players, the common denominator is their economic condition, is the ability for their family to push them, to support them, and to bring them here. And at the same time, their ability to realize the opportunity that they have, right? And realize the self belief and confidence that's being put on them. That's not a common denominator with a lot of players, but with these two players right now who are relevant and who are trending right now, that was one thing that I saw, and I was like, is this why they're good at what they do? What do you think?
I definitely think that uh, your childhood and your upbringing dictates your whole life for sure. So, uh, facing those hardships uh, early on can be good. It's not necessarily bad. I always say, like, there is no light without darkness, right? You can't learn to appreciate the sun if you don't learn to accept the rain, right? So, having been through those hardships and go through those challenges, you sort of get used to it, right? Uh, I can speak for myself because when I grew up very privileged and I didn't have these challenging situations to challenge in my mind and body, I didn't really have to do that. I grew up privileged. So you become weak, you become soft. And I felt that in my early years in my life. And this is why I push so hard now because I never got the opportunity to do this before. Uh, and it's the same with it, just comes down to your mentality. Even if your surrounding isn't full of hardships and challenges, in healthy doses, of course, uh, you can create that environment within yourself, which is a lot of celebrities do as well. If they create this alter ego within them, within and they sort of feed off of that and create energy from there, even though they might be privileged and they have very comfortable surroundings. So I think what you highlighted, that common denominator, didn't having not grown up in.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think it's just one of many things because I completely agree with you. Okay, I'm going to talk about Kobe Bryant for example. Like you said, his alter ego, the Black Mamba, and having that mentality, right? But his father, I forgot his name, but he was called Jelly Bean Bryant, right? He was a basketball player himself. So I mean, suffice to say, like he used to play in the NBA, right? So suffice to say, he was well off. But why do you think that even he went so hard? Like because I mean, economically he was sound, right? But he
his
still
dad
ended
was
up.
a basketball player as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Kobe.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I think like the one single biggest factor, and we mentioned it subtly before as well, doesn't matter how hard you work, and I'll prove this to you
Yeah.
and everybody else right now. Doesn't matter how much talent you have, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how privileged you are or what kind of facilities you have. None of things matter. What the biggest thing that matters is self belief. Even if you have no money in the world, no talent, if you have self belief, if you can see it before you make it, if you can see yourself standing at the summit of the mountain and you believe you can make it, regardless of what people around you tell you, regardless of your lack of talent or money or resources, if you can see it that you will make it, you will make it, because you in within yourself believe in it, right?
Look, I think, I mean, definitely. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that's going to deny that. You have to believe in yourself because no one is going to believe in you. I think you and I are very good person examples for that, and we're on our journey as well. But at the same time, I've seen time and time again, like so many times, people have that self belief, and sometimes I don't know how, but sometimes they will convert that self belief into like a dose of overconfidence, and they don't back it up with showing up, being consistent. But I think self-belief is just not enough. It is pivotal. I mean, I'm not denying that, but I think it requires other supporting pillars as well.
Certainly, see that this is what I'm saying. If you have the self belief, right, that hard work, the actions will follow because you believe in it, right? That is not the focal point. It's just something that will follow because you believe in it. You would subsequently put in the work. I'm not saying some things will just happen by its own. It's not a lottery ticket, right? But just having that self belief, once you start believing in it, the action will just fall into place by itself. That's why I say, like, there's a
Okay.
lot of people who have tons and tons of talent, put in so much hard work, but there's a lack of self belief. And there's people who not very talented, maybe not even work as hard, but their belief is what gets them there. And most of the time, it's not so much about your lack of self belief, but it's about uh, your doubts in comparison to your beliefs. If you doubt yourself more than you believe yourself, obviously that thing overpowers your thoughts, and your thoughts overpower your actions. If that makes sense?
That makes sense. I have a very interesting story to share
What
as
do
well,
you
and
think? Yeah.
again, I believe this, and like I said, I mean, I think we need to further diagnose this, like dissect it a little bit. But I want to share a very interesting story over here, and again, I'll go back to the NBA because that's a sport that I love.
Hmm.
There used to be a player. I mean, he's still alive, by the name of Larry Bird. He used to play for Boston Celtics. You must have heard. The stories on this guy is insane. And one time there was a so NBA has this all-star games, and during those games you have these competitions, dunk, three pointers, and so on and so forth, right? Skills, etc. So there was this three-point shooting contest, right? And you would have the league's best three-point scorers, right? They would gather, and they would have this one night where everyone would go and participate in this. So Larry Bird comes in the locker room where all the other contestants, so basically his competition for the night, are sitting, and he just simply looks at them and says, "Who's playing for second?" Right? Who's playing for second? And believe it or not, he actually won. So when you hear stories like this, and there are so many stories like these from so many sports, right? It's just insane. Like you're, like you said, like you're just. I think it makes sense here. I mean, if I'm just talking about this story, where the fact that your self belief is way greater than your self doubt, like your ability to fail. You know, it's like saying that you will not win because I will not lose. So I do get that, but I think there are more things. Like for example, in order to say that, there's an insane amount of hard work, there's an insane amount of dedication, discipline, and yeah, effort that just went into that point, you know, for him to stand up. And by the way, these are not amateurs, right? These are themselves participating in the competition because they're good at what they do, and to be able to stand up to their faces and say this and actually yeah, walk the talk, that's just insane. So I guess what we're really trying to understand is that how does one get to that level? What does one do?
Yeah, see, like self belief is something I've been experimenting with myself in the past 2 weeks, reading more about it, having conversations on it, putting myself as a subject and experimenting with my own self as a subject and how it works. And a lot of people think of self belief as something like something acquiring something or developing the self belief, right? It's about getting something, whereas that's where you're wrong. It's not about getting something, it's about leaving something, leaving your
Yeah,
past, leaving your limitations, removing the limitations, not putting up new limitations, removing the limitations. Because uh, since our childhood, we've, depending on our upbringing and our surroundings, we constantly put limitations around us. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. uh, like if I asked you, "Oh, can you run 100 kilometers?" What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
all right, that I can't do it. I mean, I've experienced this myself, right? Like my first marathon, yeah.
Ask yourself, this is the conditioning, right? And that's fine. Like, that conditioning is based up off of different circumstances that you faced in your life, and based on that, your subconscious mind puts up limitations around your capability and how you think of that capability, what it is that I can achieve, what it is that I can't achieve. And we think we know ourselves so well, like we bounce off of our limitations so frequently that we know that, oh, this I can do, this I can't do. And on a daily, life is
Absolutely.
testing us with different things and putting an opportunity in front of you. Can you do this? Can you do that? And then, depending on how you react, you reinforce those limitations. So again, self belief is not about acquiring or developing something. It's about letting go of your past limitations, letting go of those boundaries. When you let go of those boundaries, the world is your oyster. Like, everything opens up, everything is possible.
I agree. This reminds me of a quote from Michael Jordan. I just put it up. He says, and I think he said it during his NBA farewell speech. He said, "Never say never, because limits, like fear, are often just an illusion."
They are an
Right?
illusion.
I think, yeah, I think it's just, and it's coming from the GOAT himself, the greatest of all time. Um, Speaking of Michael Jordan, there are a couple of things that I want to talk about because I agree with you. You know, self belief is there, but oftentimes I've seen that these players push that limit, like you're like the limit that we're talking about, because of external reasons as well, right? For example, yeah, Michael Jordan's famous documentary on Netflix from Chicago Bulls, right? The Last Dance, right? In that he often talked about taking things personally. Like, you know, like someone would say something, someone would do something, and he would take that personally.
But
I
that's by
think,
design. You see, that's by
okay,
design. Because like, I do it sometimes as well. David Goggins used to
uh,
do this a lot. Like, all the hate comments got, he
yeah,
recorded it on a tape, and then he used to listen to it while running, or he put it up in front of his mirror. uh, because in those situations, those doubts, like hearing those doubts, so people doubting you, you push harder. I'm gonna show you what I am and what I've got. And I do this
Mm.
sometimes as well. Like, and
I
it's
think
that,
all of us do, yeah. It's fair,
yeah,
yeah. All
exactly.
of us do, yeah.
And one
You
when
need that
someone,
spark, yeah.
yeah, and one when somebody like questions your uh, capability, like not just to yourself, you got to prove it to them, but to yourself as well. Oh, I'm sure I'll show you, like, and it's more so like you prove it to yourself as well. No, I'm not this
Absolutely.
person, and I'm gonna show them and me, right?
Yeah, it's more so about actually like how dare they raise a finger or raise a question mark or even bring that thing up. Like,
Yeah,
okay, like, okay, I'm gonna show, like you said, I'm gonna show you that that story is not what you're saying. The story is the other way around. So, oh yeah, I mean, like, look,
it's
apart
feeding
from,
your ego,
yeah, exactly.
knowing when to and how to feed your ego to achieve whatever outcome that you want for yourself, right?
Absolutely, and not going beyond that as well, because sometimes if you overfeed it or you indulge in it
Of
a
course,
little
it
bit
can
more,
consume you.
it can be, yeah, it consume you, it can be self-destructive, and then like the
Exactly.
very fabric of your social structure falls apart. So I totally get it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a common trait that we see in very high competitive athletes. I want to move away from athletes a little bit, and I want to talk, because I mean, athletes, we talk about athletes and or the people in the limelight, because of course they're in the limelight, they're a part of our pop culture, they're a part of our society, and sometimes, often, they're not people that we look up to. But I want to talk about high performing individuals in their own respective fields, like Nobel Prize winners, or very successful entrepreneurs, or skilled
Hmm.
artists. How
Yeah.
about them? What is their self-belief? Is this the same thing that we're talking about with athletes, or is there another
It
thing?
doesn't matter. The fundamental principles apply in each and every situation. It's like gravity. It's not like gravity will work in America. It won't work in Australia. Gravity is gravity. The law of gravity is applicable everywhere. The fundamental principles don't change. So this is what I mean by self belief, right? It doesn't mean you winning, or it doesn't mean, because that is all subjective, right? Winning for one person can look different than other person, and greatness for one person can look very different from the other person. It's about self belief, that you see a finish line and you see yourself standing at the finish line. You talk about Nobel Prize winners, like, let's take them as an example. Steve Harvey says, uh, your imagination is a preview to life's coming attractions. Your imagination is a preview to
Like,
life's
he
coming
says what
attractions.
God wants you to have.
Yeah. So you imagine it here before you see it in front of you. If you can't imagine it here, it will never appear in front of you. How the first phone was built, how Wright brothers built a plane, anybody, any sort of invention, they thought of it first. They imagined it. They believed that they could do it, even though the whole world couldn't even fathom what they're talking about, be it a telephone line, a TV, electricity, or even planes, right? They imagined it, they saw it, they believed in it, and they collected evidence to strengthen that belief and get to the finish line step by step by step.
Yeah, I want to talk about more about this evidence, because again, like, these things we hear, we always hear manifestation, law of attraction, think about it, see it, believe it, touch it, feel it. But what's the point of doing all of these things if you're not taking the action towards it, right? I mean, sometimes you would, often than not, you see people daydreaming, and 10 years go by, 5 years go by, 20 years go by, and they're stuck in their daydream, and they're like, oh, I did not have the time, I did not have the energy, this happened, that happened. What do you have to say to those people?
Very, very good question, right? Evidence. So, when we mentioned first, the number one ingredient to achieving anything in life is self belief, right? And it's something you cultivate within yourself. It's not a scheme that you go by, it's not a course, it's not talking to someone, it's something you cultivate within yourself. So the good and bad thing about it is You got to develop. It's within your control, right? Coming down to evidence, if you don't have that, the good thing is that you can collect evidence to build that. How do you get evidence? Now there is a number of ways. First things first that you have to realize is the limitation that I've put around myself, it's a product of the mind, right? It's not actually there. I'm sure everybody can find an example in their lives where they thought that was their limit and they surpassed it. Every time you step in an uncomfortable situation, that is you surpassing your limitations. My limitation last year was a half marathon, maybe a marathon, right? And I'm going to come to how I'm testing this self belief. This year, I haven't announced this yet, but by the time this podcast come out, I will have announced it. This year on 26th of October 2024, I'm going to run my first 100 kilometers, all while ascending a staggering 2,800 meters incline, right? And
All
this is
right.
on the 26th of October. Now, I couldn't fathom it before, right? Last year. Could I fathom it? No. Because it's my limitation, I put it. Now
Yeah,
I'm working
we
towards it.
we would have taken it step by step.
Yeah. So the first things first, you have to realize, and this is what elites, greats do as well. They know that the limitation is just a product of their mind, and with self belief and adding evidence to strengthen that self belief, they can surpass any limitation. I genuinely believe in my life, genuinely believe this. I can achieve whatever it is that I want if I put my mind to it. All the limitations I set around myself are my own. And I'm just using my life as a subject, as an experiment to prove this not just to myself but to people around myself as well. That is why my purpose and my vision is bigger than me, right? It's not about me. It's about proving to everybody else that your mind is your biggest limitation, right? So once you understand that, it already puts a crack in your limitations. The boundaries you have set around yourself, they're already cracked. You know you can crack them if you put your mind to it. Now, how do you collect evidence? There is different ways. Like I said, it's not about getting somewhere, it's about letting go. Letting these walls and boundaries that we've put them up through our childhood. It's about letting go of these. Imagine, okay, now my limitation is 100 kilometers, right? Imagine if I grew up with David Goggins, running beside David Goggins every freaking day. Would my limitation be the same? No, because that's not what I've seen. My limitations are based around my previous childhood circumstances. Based on what I've seen, I put limitations around myself to see this is achievable, this is not achievable. But every human is the same. Every human has a mind, and human potential is limitless. Like we see humans do some crazy
Oh,
shit,
insane things.
crazy
Yeah,
stuff, right?
the things that you wouldn't even think that they're possible.
Exactly. So, the first things first, understand this self belief isn't about acquiring something, it's more about letting go of the limitations around you've set around yourself. When you see let go of the limitations, you can see the finish line, right? Second thing that I'm doing now is showing up. When you show yourself and when you prove to yourself that despite the circumstances, how hard or rough it may be, you can show up to yourself. You tell yourself that you can be trusted and that you can believe in yourself.
Hmm.
Every time you cheat yourself here, you commit to doing something and you don't do it. You say, I'm going to sleep at 10, you don't sleep at 10. You say, I'm not going to eat junk, you eat junk food. You say, I'm going to go work out, you don't work out. What is that doing? That is creating a gap between your thoughts and your actions, right? You tell yourself that you can't be trusted. Next time you set a goal, small or big, let's say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to go for a 10K run. You think to yourself, last 10 times I've said I'm going to do something, but I didn't do it. Do you think you can be trusted? You won't trust yourself. You won't believe yourself. So belief is developed by showing up for yourself. Each and every day, when you show up for yourself, you tell yourself, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And when you have that alignment with your mind and body, and you say, I'm going to do this, your body follows, because your body knows it doesn't have a choice. Every time this had said something, this has had followed. It doesn't have a choice. I'll give you an example. The other day, I had incline runs, right? And I woke up, didn't sleep much. Woke up like I think 5:30 in the morning, and there's a park near my house. There's a small Mount Steel. Did a 2K warm up, and then I was doing inclines. I was supposed to do 10 rounds. After 8 rounds, I vomited. I was dehydrated. I vomited. Took some rest. Body's tired, lazy. This is life testing you. This is life, people, circumstances testing your self belief. How strong is your self belief? I took 5 minute rest, got up, did the last two, and then did a 2 kilometer cool down after vomiting. Uh, and that's when I felt so powerful. That's when I told myself, yeah, you can be trusted. You will do what you set your mind to. Today was the same. Friday night is always a beers night with the boys. Had a few beers, and that's on me, right? I hardened my circumstances, so I have to pay for it. I woke up with a hangover today. I had a boxing sparring session planned, and then a 22-kilometer run that my coach set for me. The whole hour I'm contemplating this, that, maybe next week, blah, blah, blah. You just gotta shut that voice. The more you give attention to that limiting voice, the thicker your boundaries will be. The more you give attention to that limiting voice in your head, the thicker your boundaries will be, and the harder it will be for you to reach the finish line. Does it make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah. Oh no, I was just saying, so it's important for our viewers to also understand that, like, to reach for me to reach over here, it took a lot of time, effort, and the most important thing that he said was collecting those evidence along the way. Right. So when you hear him talking about these things, it was not an overnight thing. Anyone's success, be it like you mentioned, in any profession, will never be an overnight thing. It's just that from the day that they set that path, that they went on their journey, they have been collecting evidence, and it's just that momentum is just that stack of undeniable proof of your integrity, of your hard work, of you showing up. Is just adds up. It keeps adding up, and sometimes it might even compound. And that's when, like, the athletes talk about, like, they saw something inside of them, or they pulled something out of them that they didn't thought that they had. It comes from that. It's like you keep unlocking a superior version of yourself, right? So that's absolutely insane, and I'm so proud of you, brother. You inspire me as well, and everyone that is listening right now. And it's just amazing to see this journey and the things that you're doing.
Yeah, and genuinely, like the biggest thing for me, the biggest purpose is what kind of impact I leave on my surroundings, right? And it's a good thing that you mentioned it's not an overnight thing, because the main thing is nobody knows you better than yourself, right? Now, let's say you having so much knowledge and information about yourself, you know yourself a lot. Let's take a friend. Maybe you have a friend that you know a lot of, right? If he's someone who's told you the last 10 times we're going to meet at the gym and then he never comes, what is going to happen the 11th time he tells you he's going to come to the gym? Do you believe him? Of course not, because the past evidence doesn't tell you that he's done so, right? And you are the same. There is two personalities within you. There's always a chatter going on, right? So when you cheat yourself every time, you tell yourself that you can't be trusted. So that's why this evidence takes time. Like it's a work in progress. Every day, in and out, you need to uh, show up to yourself and prove to yourself and collect that evidence. I am so grateful to be at a stage wherein the energy I carry inside me now is, oh my god, you
And it
feel
shows. Yeah, and it
unstoppable.
shows. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
feel
it shows.
unstoppable, and I promise you, this is just the beginning. It's
The
just the beginning.
beginning. Yeah.
And I'm already seeing so much change around me that I'm so grateful for. It is a privilege to be in a position to do this for people around you. Genuinely so grateful, and that's what pushes me harder and harder. Raj, our very good friend, he's also been on the podcast. He also signed
Yes.
up his girlfriend for the marathon, so we started training.
Huh.
It was her first day today. She never ran more
Huh.
than 5 kilometers. We ran 15 kilometers together today. Things like this, I know the impact it has on your surroundings, right? Energy is so contagious, right? You subconsciously end up doing what your friends and your surroundings are doing. So
Hmm.
I just want to make sure that I leave a positive impact. When I give them positivity, that's what I receive as well. And
And
there is
that's
other,
amazing.
yeah.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so these are the 2 points. There is a couple more, but starting off with these is crucial when it comes to collecting evidence to develop that self belief that is unstoppable and embodying that winning mindset. Understanding that your limitations are self created and you can get rid of them at will if you want to. Number two is showing up for yourself. That is undeniable evidence, as
Undeniable. Yeah.
Hermosi says as well, right?
Yep. Yep.
Number three, visualization. This is something I've been doing recently a lot, and it's an absolute game changer. I want to give an example of Michael Phelps here. We all know who he is, right? Are you
Yes,
aware of who
sir.
he is? Right? I don't know how many times he's the single
He's
most.
so he's so underrated though. The fact that his achievements are just astounding, but somehow he doesn't end up in the spotlight. But he's just someone unbelievable.
Yeah, he himself has more Olympic medals than most of the countries like combined.
Countries, yeah, exactly.
Right? Single, I think in the world he has most gold medals. Michael
More than
Phelps in
20,
his,
right? More than 20, if I'm
yeah,
not wrong. Yeah.
Olympian. He's
And to do it for for such a continuous amount of time, like just imagine, like, for the Olympics happen every 4 years, not something that happens every year. For 4 years to by that time you're competing with a very new pool of people as well, younger than you.
yep, exactly. So something he used to do is I was coming to visualization. This is something Michael Phelps used to do all the time. He had a coach, Bob Bowman, right? And he used to, whenever before going to sleep or first thing in the morning, or whenever he wanted to put Michael in that routine, he would tell him, start the videotape, put on the videotape and watch it. And it wasn't some him watching that videotape. He would close his eyes, right? And he would go over the events from the point on he enters the stadium, what he's gonna do, where he's gonna sit, what sock he's gonna put on first.
So the videotape is just him replay, like visualizing basically.
Visualizing, going over each and every single step from that point on to the point where he's holding a medal. Each and every stroke, each and every move, how he's gonna step on, what he's gonna do, and he did this day in day out for his whole career. I think 20 years he did not take a single day off. The thing with visualization is it takes away surprises. When experiencing something in reality and experiencing something within your head, your body reacts to it exactly the same way. It doesn't matter. Let's say you're sleeping in a 30-story building in a room. If you watch a movie and if you think about, oh, a shark's gonna come eat me, there is no rational way a shark's gonna come there and eat you. But when you think that I'm gonna be attacked by a shark, even though your surrounding is different, when you think that, your body reacts to it in that way. Your body thinks you're actually going to be eaten by a shark. And that is the power of visualization. We mentioned before as well, there were weightlifters who are able to gain muscle just through the power of visualization. They would sit in front of weights and they would just imagine and visualize themselves lifting those weights and doing those movements and seeing their muscles get bigger. After a few weeks, they tested them and they had actually gained more
Gain more muscle,
muscle
yeah. So my muscle connection.
without
Yeah.
touching the weight, right? So, this is the power of visualization. Now, how I use it is I visualize my next day. If I'm going to do a long run, I visualize it. I go through it. Oh, I'm running 20K. So like it's when you step into it again, it's you doing it the second time. And it's not just about day to day. You can visualize your goals as well. Something I do, I have two short term goals in the next 5 months, which is running 100 kilometers and growing my following to 100,000 followers. I've put that in front of my bed. I've made an A4 size frame
Yeah.
sheet. I've put those two goals and I've put it in front of my bed. As soon as I wake up, that's the first thing I look at. Every day, I spend 5 minutes just seeing myself standing there. You don't have to see the process, you don't have to know the journey, right? Nobody, I can say this with surety, any successful person, nobody saw themselves, knew the journey. They knew where they wanted to go, but they didn't know how to get there. Everybody's
Correct.
figuring it out. Everybody is in this process of uh, uh, collecting evidence, letting go of those limitations, visualizing, creating a routine, optimizing on that, right? So just see yourself standing there, and each and every move that you take day in, day out will lead you closer and closer and closer. Just can't get distracted, right? So that is number three. And then the last things are you should have a strong why. Obviously, don't do something just because you see other people doing it. If your why is not bigger than you will not do it because then you end up prioritizing your comforts. It's not a comfortable journey, right? If you think of it as a comfortable journey, you will not get there. If your why is bigger than you will be willing to compromise and sacrifice your comfort to achieve something that is bigger than you. If your why is not bigger than you will always prioritize your comfort. And sadly, you won't reach there, which is perfectly okay. It just depends on what you want to achieve in life, right? Number five is obviously having that optimal routine. Routine is so important, not just having a routine, but manipulating your routine in a way wherein it has things holding you accountable and it is bringing you complementary supportive energy, right? I can
Absolutely.
only speak for my example. So, how I do this is we do Miser Sundays now. We do a podcast. Marathon training every Saturday. I've hired a running coach. I don't necessarily need it, but I've hired one. Right? He puts out my workouts. Having all these things around me, they hold me accountable and they keep bringing me that energy. They keep reminding me of my purpose and my why, and they keep bringing me back to the equilibrium, to the path, to the road that's going to lead me there, right? Because distractions are going to be everywhere and they will consume you more or less. It's just about you've manipulated your environment enough and in such a way that it keeps bringing you back to your equilibrium. And that is why this podcast and the other things that I've put across within my routine, they keep bringing me back. Now when I wake up on a Sunday morning at 5 a.m., I don't have a choice. I know there's 10 people waiting for me. I have to show up, right? So that's another thing. And these are your five things, again, just to go over it.
Yeah.
Letting go of your limitations, all collecting evidence. You have to collect evidence to show yourself that you can believe yourself. And you collect evidence by letting go of your limitations, showing up for yourself, visualizing, see yourself standing there. You don't have to do things, you have to be someone. When you become that person, those actions just follow, right? That becomes your identity. Defining your why and optimizing your routine, having make sure your routine holds you accountable and make sure your routine attracts that energy that complements you. and brings you back to your equilibrium to achieve your goals and your visions that are greater than you.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's very well summed up. I mean, there's nothing to add or speak about those things. But another thing that I just wanted to add, just to basically top it off, is the passion, right? So when you have these things, these are definitely, and there's a stark reality that both Parmeet and I can share from the past years of our life when we used to surround ourselves with different things. And now that we've, like Parmeet said, we've manipulated our routine, our surroundings, and we're seeing different results, right? So one thing also is very important that I believe is passion, right? Passion sometimes basically takes over when there are days when you don't feel like it, right? And again, these things are not quantifiable, not measurable. You can never really put a finger on when that passion comes out, when it doesn't come out, but it really comes out when you have to protect that thing, right? So when there are other external factors that might come into play and that might manipulate why you're doing this in the first place, passion basically reminds you that, oh, you started this journey because of a purpose. Either you wanted to be great in that particular field, or you wanted to achieve that goal, or whatever it is that you wanted to do, right? So passion is something that keeps you alive, that keeps that fire inside, and we see that in all of these top athletes, top people as well, right? It comes out in different ways as well, whether it's in the form of their work, in the form of the routine, or the way that they speak. So right now, for example, I could see you speak passionately about the things that you were doing. So yeah, I mean, really, I guess it's there's no one way to put it, but the way that you broke it down, that's absolutely amazing. And the way that you broke it down from your own personal experience, I mean, for me, that's just amazing because I get to learn a lot as well. And I'll definitely be implementing those in my own personal life as well. And I hope the people who are listening right now got to learn a lot, got some amazing value out of it, and they start collecting their evidence as well.
Yes, and that's what it is. This is also as much of a learning process for me as it is for you and everybody watching, right? I'm in the process of collecting my own evidence. And I'll say just one thing. I'm not in a race with you. You're not in a race with everybody else. Your only competition in this world is your past, right? It's your past. That's your only competition in the world. If you face a competitive person, be grateful for them because they help you challenge, overcome, and improve and be better than your past. And that's your only competition. If you're better than you were yesterday, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
And that's a very beautiful point, because at the end of the day as well, like, you are your biggest rival or competition, because the all the things that Parmeet are talking about, right? Like, it's all internally focused. It's all
Yep.
focused within you. We're not talking about finishing the marathon at a faster pace and everything. And okay, besides that, even if it is, right, all of these players, everyone is focusing on their routine, on how they conduct themselves every day.
Yep.
That they have to make sure that they show up, right? Even if the other guy is showing up before, earlier, after, whatever it is, you have to show up. You just have to make sure that everything goes right for you. So definitely, I
Yeah.
mean, it's and you'd be surprised, like, once you internalize these things, it makes your life so much easier, so much simpler, and you open yourself to learning. I think that's the most important thing. People have always asked me about, like, competition, and sometimes they would also ask me about jealousy and all of these things, like, how do you deal with those things and everything. And I've always done this ever since, from whenever I had this a cognitive ability to think about these things, is that I just need to do better. I need to do better. And if a person is doing something better than I am, then I need to see what they're doing and incorporate it in my own way. We do this a lot in my career as well, in the e-commerce profession. We never reinvent the wheel. Um, our director tells us never to reinvent the wheel, because there's somebody out there already who's doing a better job than you are. There's always is.
Hmm.
And if you go down the rabbit hole, you're done. You would be going down
I
that
guess
rabbit hole, and you'd be
it's very circumstantial. It depends from circumstance to circumstance. Uh, but like this is what really made it clear for me when Israel Adesanya when he beat Alex Pereira in UFC. This is combat sports UFC, uh, and he said that he's become the best fighter because of the level of competition he had. Imagine if he didn't have that competition, he wouldn't be able to push himself, right? You have no reason to push. The fact that you push so harder because of you have such hard competition. At the end of the day, you just look back and see how much far I've come, how much I've improved. Credit to that competition and credit to that those challenges and difficult circumstances that led me to push harder and be here.
Yeah, definitely. Competition is there, but what I was trying to imply was that basically is just to focus on yourself,
On
right?
yourself.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, Alex Pereira, you know how he's built different. If we go genetically, like Alex Pereira is always talked about as like as a freak of nature because of the limbs and everything, right? So he probably wouldn't be doing. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, definitely, it's like Ronaldo and Messi, right? Both of them would never admit it, but both of them, while they were performing, had this thing in front of them, right? So it's, yeah, I mean, it's just about making sure that you're doing the right things and not focusing on the other guy. Of course, like you have him as a target, you have him, and you know that you have to do. And this is where like businesses, people, competition as well, like they always have that benchmark that they have to, yeah, they have to one up. And this is the beauty of the capitalist society as well. Like I think the world at this rate where it's growing so fast is only because now each company has to one up, right? And if they don't, then they fall behind, especially with the world becoming so fast. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it is. Like, people always question, like, why me? Why am I facing this? Every challenging situation is an opportunity for you to grow and better yourself. Be grateful for it. Well, because when you do come out of it, you're bigger, you're better, and you're stronger, and you're wiser, right? And that's what it is. So be grateful for your challenges, be grateful for your dark days, for it is those that give you the opportunity to appreciate the light you have in your life. uh, then that's yin and yang, right? Lastly, I just want to touch on the dark side, and I mentioned this before. Define your why very, very clearly. And if your why is not bigger than you, then I don't see this being sustainable per se. Because when challenging situations hit, you will very clearly know what your priority is. Very clearly. That, they say like in pressure, you reveal a person's true identity. So when that pressure is applied and how you react based on that pressure, it will show where your priorities truly lie. It is in your why or it is in your own present comfort, right? So because that journey is so hard, you are not your priority. You will be misunderstood because most people are not on that equilibrium, which is why it's also going to be lonely. There's going to be more failures than successes. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be full of discomfort. It's going to be full of failures. It's going to be full of breaking barriers again and again and again. And lastly, you're changing your identity day in, day out. Change is the only thing constant in that process. But the feeling at the top of the summit and the impact that you create from that position is unlike any other feeling in this world. The thing that makes me most happy to this date is when I push past my boundary, number one, and second, when somebody comes and tells me, bro, I ran 10K because of you, or you helped me do this, or you do this. And that in no way this is for me, like it makes me really happy. But when they do these things, credit to my energy and my inspiration from me, That is what keeps me pushing and pushing, because genuinely
Keeps you
that is what
going, yeah.
yeah.
It's also part of that evidence as well, right? You know, like what you're doing is working and is inspiring people, it's moving people. So that's amazing. It's the same thing for me. Like a lot of habits that I picked up is because of you. So yeah, I mean,
And
there's
that's
that
the
enough.
power. Like, your surroundings have a huge influence on you. Huge, huge.
If you have the right ones, if that's the thing, like you
Even
have
the
to.
wrong ones, even if you have wrong surroundings, they have a wrong kind of influence. I've been in a
Yes,
position where I've had wrong surroundings, and I've been in a position where I have right surroundings. And both of them have a different kind of influence. And it's not
exactly.
either or, it's not black and white. Every person is a mix of both. It's a gray area, and it comes out in different situations in different ways, right? Just being aware of it. That's the only thing, right?
Absolutely.
Something as simple as my friends vape. So when I'm around them, I have that urge to vape because it gives you dopamine. And it's as simple as that. What kind of influence is that creating? Whereas my friends come with me, go to the beach, I get them to meditate. And I'm meditating and they watch me and they start meditating. What is that? And it's not
Mm,
right or wrong, it's just different. It's different in terms of in terms of where you want to go in
absolutely.
life, right? And I always say everybody in this world comes to this world with a purpose, and your purpose is something that is bigger than you. You just got to find it, and that takes some work finding it. But if you are privileged enough, and if you are in a position where you have the ability to fulfill that purpose, God will put it in front of you.
Absolutely. And so he has.
So he has. So he has. And I'm so grateful. The whole time I was running today, 22 kilometers, just kept saying to myself how grateful I am. And I made a post yesterday on Instagram where I said, happiness is not a destination, it's a direction. It's a choice that you make every single day. So make a wise choice and smile, because you have so much to be grateful for. I don't care how miserable your life is, just the fact that you can see, you can walk, you can talk. Just go look at someone for 5 minutes, look at someone in a wheelchair, you'll realize how grateful you are. Look at someone in Africa who can't have 2 meals a day, you'll realize how grateful you are. The only route to true, genuine happiness is gratitude. When you're grateful for the things you have, you feel joyful. And that is the greatest purpose in life. I genuinely believe this. Being joyous is greatness. It doesn't have to be you conquering the world. Just being joyous can create more of an impact on your surroundings than you can ever imagine. Because you're giving that positive energy, and energy is contagious. It flows and it amplifies. So, so that's what it is. Any last words?
Oh no, I mean definitely. Just I think just to add a little bit more on uh, just looking around at the world. We talked about pandemic. We talked about how a lot of our freedom was taken away from us. How a lot of things that we used to take granted was not given to us, and we remember that whole year, right? So and just to see where we are right now, to be able to go outside, to be able to be with people. I mean, I was in Thailand for a whole month just to be with those other people from other
Friends of yours, yeah.
places of the world, friends, and then like beaches, concerts, and all of those people. Really made me grateful, and I'm like, like life has so much to offer, and you have so much to look forward to. So whatever it is you might be going through right now, I would just like to come back to the point of self-belief and collecting that evidence, have that confidence that you're going to make out of here, and just work genuinely with integrity every day to collect those evidence, because you never know when things might be changing for you, and when things change, trust me, they change very very fast and for the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. And I promise you, uh, you let go of those limitations, you show up for yourself every single day, you visualize and you optimize your routine. And in some time, you will be a different person. You will be that person that has self belief. And it is, you will be able to achieve whatever it is that you aspire to achieve. Hopefully, good things, and they bring good to people around you as well. And that's all it is. Uh, We really hope you got something out of this episode. Uh, Please keep supporting us in any way you can. If you have some thoughts, comments, feedback to share with us, we really, really, really appreciate it. Do interact with us in any way you can. Let us know what you think about self belief, if you have been able to understand this concept, and what you are doing to collecting evidence. Maybe you have different strategies to collect that evidence.
Exactly.
We would love to hear and learn from you as well. So interact with us, share with us, keep supporting us in any way you can, and we will see you next Sunday. Thank you.